As an entrepreneur, let's talk about getting started in business. Each year, 2 million American couples get married. And for many newlyweds, the KNOT.com is a valuable service for planning the big day. They found a niche out there that sits down there, it's online, it meets everybody's demand. It evolves around the cell phone. People love it. So, what does the site offer that other wedding planners don't have? Okay, they established an identity, and it's a nationwide identity because they're not focusing in on a geographical area. It's easy to find, it's on your phone. They go beyond blogging and they create content and they look out for opportunities. And remember, other forms of marketing follow this kind of a model, make sure your website has a mobile option. Be friendly. People like instant. They like it now. They like to find it now. You need to pay attention to this market. If we go back, and we're not talking that history is that big, 2019 was the defining year. That was the first year that social media passed print media for the first time. So we're looking at still new, and there's new opportunities out there. So pay attention. Social media is still new and it will be new for the next 5 years, but don't ignore the print medium that still exists out there. And we'll talk about that at a later point. Amazon fakes out there. This is the big deal. If you're going to market, if you take one of the courses, we talk about the aspect of long tail model. Amazon is the biggest business model that uses the long tail model. There's a lot of products out there. There's also a lot of cheats out there as well, including Amazon has been accused of doing it themselves. All of a sudden, here's the number one item. We push, go sell, and miraculously, a year later, Amazon comes out with almost identical item. Okay, they were stealing marketplace, and there's multiple lawsuits out there. You also have people trying to copy your item. Amazon is a place where people steal ideas and they go take them, they dismantle them, they rebuild them, they re-engineer them according to their ways, and they sit down, have a lower cost. They have low cost labor in their country doing it, even prison labor doing it. So you have different things on Amazon fakes out there, and it's a big deal. Here's an example of Brush Hero, and so you'll see people copying things out. So if you're starting a business, make certain that you know who the suppliers are to your business, that they're trustworthy and won't steal your ideas. If you're dealing with a country that doesn't have protect intellectual property for your country, don't deal with the country because they will steal your ideas. One time I'm a writer and I wrote a poetry book out there, and so we're looking at to redecorate a room, and my wife referred to a poem, and she's reading the poem, and it's in the early hours of the morning, and she's reading the poem to me and says, "Huh?" And so she read it again. And so we're going to put this poem on the wall of her room. I go into my office and they pull out one of the books I wrote, and here on page 8 is my poem. Somebody took my poem that I published about 8 years before online, and they stole it, and they're selling my poem. Okay, so that being said, so we didn't buy the poem because somebody's making money off my idea, except nobody buys that many poems. I wasn't worried about losing massive amounts of money. It's just somebody stole my poem and they're out there selling my poem, pretending it's theirs. And so you have that kind of thing happening. And it's not just there, it's almost everywhere you go nowadays. Be careful of who you're putting your intellectual property out there with, and are they trustworthy in the process? Enterprise zones. Enterprise zones are really interesting. I went to visit one down in Dallas, Texas. And so we went to an area, and you could tell that it had been refurbished. The streets were repaved, the street lighting was new, the building facades. It looks like somebody had gone through this multi block area and sandblasted old buildings, which indeed they did. And now you have this really, by the time it was done, a cool artsy district with art, small restaurants, a great place to hang out. And by the time it was all done, they turned an area that was desolate of anything into something that ended up being profitable they reduced taxes for 10 years, almost no cost whatsoever. They beefed up the police presence over there. They provided all kinds of incentive for the private individual investor to actually open up new stores, and it worked. They're making money. They revised part of their city. They reduced crime in that area because of the fact that now it was a nice place to go to. They had people going there on a regular basis. We call that enterprise zone. You'll see also this aspect of incubators. One time I went in, and a friend of mine, had his own law business going, and he was about 4 years into his practice. And so I walked in, and so there's the two people working the center desk, and the two people, they're actually being the business pros, the support staff for about 8 businesses altogether. And they all shared in, and they had incubator, so they all shared in the paying part of that. So a phone would go off, ding, and they would name the law practice over here. They would name this business over here and everything else, acting like they are the personal assistant for that company. When here, the two of them were actually the persons for 8 companies altogether. They just had to make certain when they pushed a button, they would say the right name of the company in the process. So you'll see incubators out there. Works a little bit like that as well, but you'll see business incubators sometimes established by the government of the city itself or a state agency. That happens, or sometimes you'll have it done by private sector in the process. Small business, they're really independently owned and operated. They don't dominate the field of operation, and they're really small because a lot of times, if you go back to the beginning of our chapter, 81% of all businesses are really sole proprietorship. So this really fits a lot of that. There's over 30 million small businesses in the United States. Some of them are highly successful, and the people want to keep it small or don't have the facilities to expand or simply don't want to because they're enjoying their life as being a business owner and an entrepreneur. 65% of the nation's new jobs are in small business. They have more personal customer service. People like that nowadays much better, and they respond quickly to opportunities as they present themselves. Anywhere from sports goggles called doggles over here by the time it was all done, to doggy fashionistas, to veterinary ophthalmologists, even military canines. You have all that going on out there. Everybody has a different niche out there. You'll see lots of them. Some of them succeed and some fail. If you look on the record for California, California is by far one of the most innovative states out of all 50. You'll see a lot of things coming to California that are experimental, and they live and they die here. And then if they succeed, you'll see a lot of times you'll see that same concept going across the United States, and 3 years later hits the East Coast. It's pretty interesting watching that happen on a national basis. So, but success and failure here really does determine a lot for the rest of the country. This is almost like a trial balloon as to whether that's going to be successful. A lot of times for business failure, you have manager incompetence. People don't know what to do because they're stumbling in the process. But a big thing is inadequate financial planning. You need to have the proper capital startup money to start your business really well. And sometimes they just go into a business that's not a good fit for them. Here's some examples of people that went out there. Tommy Hilfiger, his first store went bankrupt. I mean, now it's a giant thing, and Hilfiger, oh wow, it's a good fashion. Okay, Milton Hershey, his first confectionery failed. Apparently, he needed to sweeten the pot some more. H.J. Heinz, they went bankrupt 6 years after they start. Then they learned how to catch up with everybody. These are puns, by the way, in case you don't get them. So they even know how to catch up. They can learn how to cut the mustard to the point that now everybody relishes H.J. Heinz Company. Okay, Walt Disney, his first film company went bankrupt. There was a documentary on the original Walt Disney. It was one of the worst Disney things I've ever seen because it wasn't produced by Disney. It was about his life, and it was about the first character he produced. It wasn't Mickey Mouse. He produced a character, and somebody else stole it from him, and his company went bankrupt. He restarted, and Mickey ended up being the core of his business. And I guess it grew, didn't it? Okay, so somebody had to rat him out in the process. So that being said, Henry Ford, it's really funny. I watched an old video of him once upon a time. The guy was so excited about a car, he built his first car in a garage, except the garage didn't have a garage door. It was the middle of the night in Detroit. He takes a sledgehammer to the back wall of the building he built the car in, punched a hole through it, and drove his car through the streets of downtown Detroit in nighttime hours. His first 2 companies failed, and I guess he's been a pretty good success ever since. LL Bean went bankrupt in the first year. Sometimes you fail and you come back either in the same field or maybe something different, something that's even better than you had before. Some of the successes over here, a lot of times people like to have personal attention, especially now, especially the millennials and Gen Z. It's a big deal. And by the way, baby boomers don't mind it either. So that being said, the product's not easily made. So sometimes you want to have that customization. People like the individual touch in just about everything. Here's a series of things to pay attention to. Do you have the capacity to bring one of these to market using those things? if you want to get started, take classes on small business and entrepreneurship. Mark Cuban is on Shark Tank, and you'll see a lot of different things. He really wants you to go and get a college education so you can handle some of these classes on bookkeeping and accounting and some of the legal aspects. You don't need to hire a lawyer. They will fleece your money and take it out of your pocket and put it into theirs as often as they possibly can because they care about their pocketbook being lined, just like you care about yours being lined as well. If you can do it yourself, do it yourself. Do that. Try to do your marketing as much as you can. Do your bookkeeping as much as you can. Pay attention to that. Get experience in the field. Start a part-time business. Do a side hustle if you have to. If you can't, apprentice and take over a successful firm. There's a lot of different ways for you as an entrepreneur to go into small business in the process over here. Here's Sharon Wright Anderson. Look at the bottom line number. She's selling books. Books. Who would think that the physical thing of a book would actually carry any value in today's age? She did, and she spent her years selling books in a used bookstore, and she turned into a nationwide chain, only making $240 million in annual revenue. Not bad. If they ever arrest her, they can always throw the book at her in the process too. Okay, yes, we'll turn the page on that. So that being said, getting started in business, 50% of the gross domestic product comes from businesses. About 600,000 start annually, and they generate about 65% of the jobs. Research the people in industry, get experience out there. They say to become an expert in a field, it takes 10,000 hours of experience. Now, pay attention. Okay, 52 weeks, 40 hours a week is 2,080 hours a year. What that means, if you want to be an expert in a business, you need to work about 5 years in that business before you get all the bells and whistles and become an expert in that field. Pay attention to that because you're going to be an entrepreneur. You need to sit down there and have all the tools available and at your disposal really fast, just like that, on a drop of a dime to make sure you're successful and you can stop and pivot to look for opportunities because small business is what the entrepreneur is all about. And a lot of times the small business becomes medium sized or even big business, depending upon how well you strategize, structure, plan, and a lot of times work. Take care.